Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan. I've been trading cannabis stocks for the last 13 plus years. There's a bit of buzz building in the sector over the past couple of weeks. We got a lot of new people on social media talking about it. So we're going to do a video here talking very briefly about some fundamentals, bigger picture stuff, and then of course getting into the charts and seeing where we stand as we kick off 2024. All right, so we have two different groups right now that are interested in cannabis stocks. You've got the people that have been interested for years that are likely bag holding, and these people are, I'm generalizing of course, but cynical, sick to their stomachs, sick of this sector. Many will sell at break even when they get the opportunity. Many need 150% from here to get to break even. What has happened in this sector over the last 3 years is we had a big run up with the 2020 election. When was the election? Whenever the election was, Biden, we got the Senate and the House, there's going to be some change. And then it was just a slow bleed of absolute despair. And then you got the newer group of people that are interested, many because of the technical setup, but they've started paying attention over the last month. And their position, there's going to be some jealousy because the people that need 150% to bounce that were early have a way worse position than the people that are just getting interested now. That's the way markets work. I highly suggest doing everything you can to put away that cynical despair and to help each other out, share information. For example, I've been seeing over the last 2 weeks, there's a definite shift in Twitter. I'm on Twitter every day, interacting with people, and there's a lot of big accounts that are getting interested for the first time over the last month or so. And then we'll talk about the headline that came out this week, but with these new people, again, we could share information. So I see one of them retweeting Schumer saying whatever he's saying, and they're saying, look at this is bullish. Meanwhile, we know his words mean absolutely nothing. He said the exact same thing 57 times over the last 3 years. So we could share that information. We don't have to be cynical and call them stupid. We can say, hey, just so you know, he said this 57 times over the last 3 years. His words mean nothing. He's the perfect epitome of what is everything wrong with government officials in the United States. So let's hope we can all make some money together because we're definitely seeing, again, the social media sentiment shift is clear and price action is shifting a little bit as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about what details are standing out here. But on to the news. So we know we're waiting for DEA to give a decision on rescheduling. If they say we're not going to reschedule, the sector is going to dump to new all-time lows. If they say we're going to reschedule, the sector is going to go up 100% fairly easily. And we can look back at the 100% move that we had just on the HHS recommendation. So a lot of people think it's low priority or low probability that we're going to get that news out of the DEA. There's also the when's it coming aspect. Maybe it's in a week, maybe it's in 4 months. We don't know. But that's what we're waiting for. That's the headline we're waiting for. And as I keep saying, establish a game plan where if that headline drops, what are you going to do? Number one, how are you going to be aware of it? Are you setting volume alerts on TradingView? Do you have a team of traders in a community and in a chat room where there's going to be an alert sent to everybody that news is out? What are you going to do if what you want to buy, maybe it's MSOS, is halted? We saw that earlier this week. It halts. While it is halted, other things trade that don't halt. Individual US companies will probably keep trading while MSOS halts. And of course, the Canadian names, TLRY, CGC. So I remember back in October, maybe it was, of 2022, I think that's when Biden first pardoned people with the federal stuff. And we had that happen where things halted in the ETF and you could still trade the individual names. So I was market buying individual names. My game plan is always, market buy some MSOS, some MSOX, the 2 times leveraged ETF. But if I can't do that, there are still other ways to act while the market is paused in some places. So have a contingency game plan as well. I'm doing a little bit different here. It's 2 p.m. Eastern on Friday, so we got 2 more hours left of trading. So we know things can certainly shift in 2 hours, but encouraging day today for the bulls. What we are watching is the tightening range on the weekly time frame for MSOS. Once we saw retracement was going to be 50% plus, we knew the most likely scenario was a tightening range. It was a red flag to get all the way back down to support, but it gave a nice low risk play off of the all-time lows. Lower high, higher low, and now we're testing resistance as I speak. If we break 769, we are then in a weekly and daily uptrend. When's the last time we've been in a clear daily and weekly uptrend? Well, this was a very weak one, but aside from that very weak one, it's been a very long time. The next check mark for the bulls is a monthly uptrend. And to get that, we've got to get over that 988 high. But we're looking at this as an accumulation sideways range, a bottoming out. And again, there's many names that you can look at, coin in the crypto world, bottoming out for months, and then the scales tilted between supply and demand, where supply outweighs demand forever. We balance out evenly, things start to settle a bit, and then the scales tilt where demand exceeds supply. And so I'm going to draw some comparisons to crypto and cannabis because they're my two favorite sectors. They're easily the two sectors that I've profited the most. I mean, in my trading career, 13 years, cannabis and crypto probably accounts for 95% of my gains. Maybe a little bit less than that, 90%. And it really just goes back to 2017, making a killing in crypto, taking it over to Canadian MJ, doubling it in Canadian MJ. And so, again, the first stock I ever bought was a cannabis penny stock. It just holds a place, both sectors, near and dear to my heart. So there are definitely similarities. They're the highest risk, highest reward sectors out there in markets. And what I'm seeing today that is reminding me of crypto is, so we know backburner trades. Backburner trades, if you don't know it, Google chart guys, backburner. I explained it in depth. That strategy is the reason for the majority of my gains trading these sectors. It's when we have hype and momentum, buying short-term oversold conditions to mark longer-term higher lows. So MSOS today dumped on the morning and hit 5-minute oversold. That's the first time we've hit. No, I take that back. We hit back here as well. So look at what's happening. So this is a difference. There are plenty of times where 5-minute RSI gets crushed and well under 30. But now look at the last 3 times. 5-minute oversold marked the low of the day on Wednesday. 5-minute oversold marked an hourly higher low yesterday on Thursday, and 5-minute oversold marked the low of the day today. Short-term, what bulls want to see is short-term oversold conditions marking longer-term higher lows. And this is an example of 5-minute oversold leading to a daily higher low being set. That's a great sign for bulls. That was one of the first observations we made in the cryptocurrency sector in 2022 that told us the bulls were starting to take over. And it was rotation amongst the crypto names along with these backburners. And I remember at some point saying, this reminds me of blue sky breakout trading, the way that these crypto names are trading right now. And so the best case scenario is for this to continue with MSOS because it shows us there's capital on the sidelines putting capital to work when we hit short-term oversold conditions. And it also shows the bears have less time to hold their positions before they're being forced out. You know, a bear this morning that shorts 730, nice, big, fast drop, all right. And then you're underwater now, so you got to cover. And that covering adds to the buying pressure to try and reverse these trends here. So it's all about 769. We're testing it right now. If we fail right now, again, 2 hours left in the day, I'd love to see a 15-minute bull flag and a close over 769. After 769, we're looking at 8 psychological, and then 880 is a key level as well back here. But things are the things are shifting in terms of, you know, the headline that hit and led to a halt earlier this week at 125, and got to give a shout out to Chart Guys members because they were all over that news. So I've been trading with some of these people in the cannabis sector for 6+ years, and it's, again, these are veterans. These are people that have lived through years of downtrend and are still here because they love the sector, they love the opportunity. And again, just the news hits, and the minute it hits, we have 3 posts in 60 seconds talking about, you know, hey, heads up, there's stuff going on. And then our first question is this the news? And I was a bit bearish on the reaction. So why was I bearish? I was bearish because it was no news. It was no new news. We knew the DEA is looking at rescheduling cannabis. What changed? Why are we going up from that move? We did drop. So I actually, you know, I got a long position that I'm holding in one account. I shorted this pop when the halt unhalted and then stopped out break even. And the reason I shorted is because there's no news here. But you had accounts like Unusual Whales on Twitter with 1 million+ followers putting out that headline. And we have to keep in mind, and I have to keep in mind, that those of us in the bubble of following the sector for years are very different than those outside the bubble. And the fun starts when those outside the bubble get attention from headlines and jump into the sector. because that's new capital being injected into the sector. And so that's what happened, in my opinion, is, the pop was shorted by people like me saying there's nothing new here, but that headline reached maybe thousands of people that were unaware that the DEA was reviewing for rescheduling of cannabis. So a great reaction to recover from that pop. And here we are again, 769 is being tested today. I would be surprised if we reject with the kind of relative strength we're seeing right now. I think a break is coming, and the buzz is going to continue to build over the weekend as more and more people talk about this sector. And so again, you can do your part by liking these videos, sharing them, liking posts. It just brings eyes, and it also, content creators like me, the more that happens, the more I see my analytics telling me people want this kind of content, I feed you this content. So appreciate the support. So right now we know that anything above the low of the day today of 710 is an hourly higher low. So there's a lot of space for an hourly higher low to be the most likely result of the next consolidation. But what we want to see is the volume. Look at this orange line. This orange line is the 20-day average volume. We want to see that. As you can see, it's pretty stagnant, pretty flat. Obviously, it was very high with the HHS news, but we want to see that start to tick up and start to trend up, showing us that volume is increasing. It's certainly way more volume now after the HHS than it was before, but we want that to continue seeing an increase. We want Wall Street Bets to be talking about it. We want Twitter to be talking about it. Everybody. We want, CNBC covers it every now and again. And that's what brings the eyes and the attention and brings the capital in. So I've got my position, and just full disclosure, I'm going to talk about some other tickers here. I've got MSOS, I've got TSNDF in my IRA, and I've got an MNMD remaining swing position from a few weeks ago. That's in the psychedelic space. We'll talk about that in just a moment as well. And anything else for me, I need to see. I will go, if we get this headline and I'm at the computer and able to act on it, I will go more aggressive. I was extremely aggressive in 2017, 2018. And then after a lot of success in that aggressive period, I then went to conservative. I will go to the most aggressive position sizing and action that I have done in 6 years if we get this headline. I will be throwing capital at this sector if I can act in the first hour of that headline dropping. So we'll see if we get it. But the good news is the price is acting right now without the headline. It's been a long time since we've seen this. So 769 being tested as we speak. When we're talking about individual names, I've said it many times, but if you want to compare one name to the sector, divide it. GTBIF divided by MSOS shows us relative strength or relative weakness, and we can see that it's been relatively strong for years with this sector, just like CRLBF has been relatively weak for years. So again, if I'm ranking these big four names, strongest to weakest, it's GTBIF, CURLF, TCNNF, CRLBF in that order. And then of course there's tier 2s and tier 3s. Another note, if we get the headline, the tier 2s and the tier 3s are likely to outperform tier 1s. Why? Because they're more thinly traded. There's much less volume in play for them normally. We just broke 769 by a penny. And they just move. It's a lack of liquidity. So when everybody's trying to rush into the door at the same time, that lack of liquidity leads to massive upside. So part of your game plan can be, okay, I'll market by MSOS, but if I want higher risk, higher reward positions, some of these tier 2, tier 3 names definitely have big percentage moves as well. And what the ideal scenario is we see, the more popular names, the bigger names, seeing upside, and then same thing as crypto. Bitcoin leads the way up, and then we watch for those profits to rotate out into the altcoins, the higher risk, higher reward, the lower volume coins. We want the same thing to be happening in this sector. We want MSOS to lead, we want the tier 1s to lead, and then we want the other sectors to act as laggards to show us that profits are rotating around within the sector. MSOS looking great, definitely extending the short term, but again, it's a really good day to go from 5-minute oversold into almost plus 10% and breaking that key longer term resistance level. We're in a weekly uptrend. It's only a couple pennies, but it's worth celebrating after so much weakness. So TSNDF, why do I have TSNDF? Because when I bought it a while ago, it was showing relative strength. And then it hit the strongest it's been compared to MSOS in history. And a lot of that had to do with it uplisting. Their CEO has been doing a lot of buying of shares, certainly more so than any other CEOs in this sector over the last year. Don't quote me on that, but 90% sure that's a fact. And it's starting to see a little bit of relative strength again over the last couple of weeks. But that's one of the low cap names that I'm keeping an eye on. But otherwise, I'm keeping it simple. MSO, MSOS, MSOX. You know, if things are halted, I'll look to TLRY. Yes, that's in Canada, but it definitely will benefit from the headline as well. And it might get exciting. TLRY, chopping around. I mean, we're shifting momentum. We did the same thing where we built a longer term base here and then the scales tilted between supply and demand. We have earnings coming up next week. I got to double check the date. Oftentimes TradingView gets the earnings dates wrong on cannabis names, but TLRY is just giving us the 2-week tightening range that we were watching for. And again, in the absence of news, it's entirely possible that we just tighten up within this range, you know, through Q1 2024. Anything under 340 is just a lower high. So again, news throws everything out the window as far as charts are concerned. They're still useful for back burners. If the news hits, I promise first 5-minute oversold will be bought if it's the headline that we're looking for. It may take days before we see it, but we use the charts for entries and we can use them for targets and things like that. But in the absence of news, still going to look at most likely scenarios, and so watching for the potential of a tightening range. CGC, I'm not even going to cover it. Again, reverse splits, dilution, it's just extremely weak. TLRY divided by CGC shows us that, you know, since that reverse split, TLRY has been gaining relative strength against CGC over the last three plus months. So again, our attention is limited. I'm only watching maybe 4 or 5 names closely in this sector. And so again, just MSOS, TLRY on the Canadian side, TSNDF on the tier 2 side, but keeping it simple for me personally. Psychedelic names will see significant opportunity and hype at some point. I am very confident that I'm going to make a lot of money in the hype run for the psychedelic names when that happens. We'll need a catalyst, we'll need a headline, we'll need the attention as well. Maybe it's, you know, MDMA, maybe the federal government. You know, there's a bunch of headlines in the pipeline, potentially February, with the federal government looking into MDMA for therapeutic uses. I'm not the headline guy. There's better channels for that. But again, just watching a bottom being set from all-time lows. This sector just hit all-time lows to end last year. And if you look at CMPS here, look at this downtrend resistance. And so what I would love to see is a pullback for a weekly higher low, back test these EMAs, EMA 12 and 26, and then break out. So I'm going to be interested in scouting a weekly higher low patiently, but we've got to confirm this inverse head and shoulders type of pattern if we get it and break out. Why I'm interested is XBI already broke this downtrend resistance line. And you can see the similarities here with the biotech sector and psychedelics. Similar pattern, but XBI stronger. So I would say if you're watching psychedelics, you're definitely keeping an eye on the biotech sector for correlation. So CMPS is the biggest psychedelic name, market cap wise. MNMD is, I have a position here, and it was just seeing a triple top at 314, buying a bull flag directly under that resistance. I set my stop under 291. I bought that day. I sold some into that strength, and now my stop is under 291, just letting the runner go. But you can see we're up. Again, when the hype gets going, these names are so thinly traded. I mean, the dollar volume is just not there yet, where, you know, average volume is under $4 million traded a day. So what happens if $50 million wants to buy in one day? That comes with a headline. It's not going to happen without a headline, but again, you know, $50 million isn't a lot when you look at something like, well, what are crypto miners doing? Full-time traders, hedge funds, they're knowing to jump on this sector for the volatility, and we're putting up billions of dollars a day. Not saying that cannabis is going to do $1 billion, but again, even just a fraction of that. MSOS, dollar volume right now, the average, it's definitely upticking as I mentioned, but $30 million a day. Again, in the grand scheme of things, that's nothing in terms of the stock market. So what we're looking for is, and that's why I'm so gung-ho on if we get the official headline, is $100 million is going to want to pour into this sector very quickly, And it's so thinly traded that this is what happens when that happens. And other names in the sector, ATAI, again, low cap hitting all-time lows, but up 50% over the last 6 weeks or so. Again, do not bag hold this sector. If there's anything that I can tell you from my experience in 13 years, and I learned this lessons in penny stocks in 2013, 2014, when these are the names that I was trading back then. Look at MJNA, these penny stocks. Look at these runs. This is where I learned how to trade and take profit into euphoria. I mean, here's a move. I remember these like it was yesterday. 2,300%. And then we drop 80%. And then we shoot up 500%. And then we slow bleed for years. 95%. I know not to bag hold because I bag holded through one of these runs and I said I'm never doing that again. And so that saved me this time around in terms of doing it in 2020 or 2021. So just don't have bag hold. Set a stop loss. You have to set a stop loss. Now, if you're going to buy a position where you say this position is either a home run or it's zero, that's fine. You write it off as zero in your brain, and that prevents from the sickening feeling. Just ask the OG people who've been here for the last 2 years, the sickening feeling of every single week having less money, your position is down more, you need more to recover to break even. It's not fun. If you have a stop loss in place, that literally can't happen, which is why I use a stop loss on every trade, because I got really sick of that sickening feeling. And if you're looking for, if this is your first time watching me, you're looking for more information, go to Chat with Traders. And I did an interview there a few months ago, and I talked a lot about, where I got started and the cannabis sector and all of that. So I highly suggest checking that out if you're interested for more. And I think that's all I got to say for now. So congrats to the Bulls. Again, things are starting to heat up a little bit. Just keep in mind, we will need a headline because, we're going to have a bit of buzz building. That's great. If the broader market stays strong, that's going to help. That's great. But this buildup, this buzz is in anticipation of the headline. So hopefully it's not, 5 months. I've always thought, late summer is when I would put the headline out if I wanted it to impact the election. But hopefully we don't have to wait 8 months, 9 months for any kind of DEA decision. It would be wonderful if that happened in the next, Q1 2024. But we're going to keep following the sector. Again, follow our Twitter and YouTube. If you want to check out our YouTube, I think I've got 700 plus cannabis videos now over the last 6 years. Got a whole playlist, 715. You can go back and say, what was I talking about 4 years ago? And one of the ways that I earned my respect from a lot of people in the sector is I was selling the Canadian MJ top, talking about the Sell the News event, and I didn't bag hold that sector after it pulled back from that massive run. And I took a lot of shit for it. People in Reddit telling me I'm dumb. You're an idiot. I'm going to outperform you just holding for a decade. These are blue chip stocks of the cannabis new emerging sector. And so, hope you have a great weekend.